everyone to this discussion about community cats and how we can help them. This is being presented to you here at the Dutchess County SPCA in partnership with the Dutchess County Department of Health. I'm gonna just talk a little bit about feral cats and give you some information on them, some of which you've seen some people in the audience. I know you already know this, but you're just gonna have to listen again. And then our TNR coordinator, Ann Ryle, is going to talk about TNR and what that means and why it's important. I want to start by actually talking about what feral cats are not. They are not wild animals. They're not wildlife. A wild animal, by definition, is an organism that's evolved over thousands of years to have specific traits so that it can succeed in its native habitat. There are species of wild cats in North America. Does anybody know what they are? Can anybody name a species of wild cat that is native to North America?
Bobcat.
Bobcat, right? There are others too.
Mountain lion.
Puma, right?
Mountain lion. The mountain lions, I don't know.
Mountain lion, yeah, that's also puma,
Oh.
and cougar is also a puma. Florida panther is also a puma. There's one more though, one more species that's native to North America that is a true wildcat. Mountain lion's a puma.
Oh, lynx?
That's right, lynx. Yeah, that's it. So puma, bobcat, and lynx are the three native species to North America. There have been jaguars and ocelots seen in the southwestern United States, but those are primarily from South America. And that's it. Felis catus, the domestic cat, is not on that list because they are not native to this area. And you can, they are actually descended from the Felis silvestris libica, the African wildcat. But they are not African wildcats anymore. They've evolved into their own species. Felis catus have their own characteristics that they acquired essentially through a 10,000-year interaction with humans. Domestic cats, just like dogs, would not exist if it were not for human intervention into their evolution. So if you look at their current characteristics and compare those to the native species we have here, pumas, bobcats, and lynx, you can see a lot of differences. For instance, the softening of their fur coats, a reduction in size and bite force. And that, though they have those characteristics, because since they were evolved for a certain purpose by humans, they needed to squeeze into small places and catch rodents. That was their main purpose in being domesticated, was for rodent control. And they needed a smaller bite force to kill a mouse, but not be an endanger to a human. So a cat can, has enough bite force to kill a small rodent, but not enough to take your hand off the way a bobcat could. All right. So they look like that because they were bred that way. They were not bred in this in a natural wild environment here. That means that their native habitat is the human home. In the outdoors here, cats can hunt mice and birds, but they can't hunt enough to feed themselves. And this is also true of barn cats as well. The sort of folklore that you don't feed a barn cat because it will be able to live off the mice it catches is simply not true. They cannot catch enough mice and birds to feed themselves. And in addition to being predators for these small animals, in this environment, they are also prey animals as well. They're prey to larger animals, and they don't have the means to defend themselves. Coyotes and raccoons, for example. They don't have the claws of the puma, or, as I said, the bite strength of the bobcat. They don't have the coats of the lynx to be able to survive in cold temperatures. And most importantly, they don't have digestive systems that are evolved to go without food for a long time. That's because they were designed specifically by us to be animals that lived in sheltered environments and would be dependent on us for regular feeding, so that they would stay put in the home and catch the mice the way they were supposed to. That's why you won't see feral cats living on mountains or in deserts. They always live on the edge of our society, in parking lots, abandoned buildings, parks or wooded areas that are close to human structures, because they need the resources to survive that are provided by humans. So they eat out of garbage cans, or they get food from kindly people who leave it out for them. But they need humans to live, and when they're living outside, that's very different from the kind of life that they were designed to live for. So your house cat has a life expectancy of around 18 to 20 years if properly cared for. Does anybody know the life expectancy of a feral cat? Under 2 years. Under 2 years. A feral cat has a life expectancy of under 2 years. Why? Because they'll be hit by a car, they'll contract disease or infection, they'll eat something toxic from the garbage, and they'll die. But in those 2 years, they can produce as many as 25 kittens. And most of those kittens are going to die too. But some might survive and live out their 2 years, and so on, producing endless generations of suffering, because it is a life of suffering. Living in the wild without the tools to do so successfully is not a happy or natural existence for these animals. So if that's the case, why don't we just take all the feral cats in? Well, this is the other side of the coin, because in addition to not being wild animals, they're not house cats anymore either. If a kitten doesn't have consistent contact living with humans before the age of 12 weeks, it's highly unlikely that it will ever see humans as anything other than predators or threats to it. And bringing them into a home to live with humans is in most cases impossible. Now there are some isolated examples you can see in videos on the dodo of, someone who takes in a feral and it turns out to be, a lovely cuddly pet. What those videos probably don't tell you though is where that cat came from, because maybe it had been a stray that had just lived on the streets, or it might have been a first generation feral, that is, its mother might have been a house cat. But a true feral, a cat whose parents are also feral and who is beyond that socialization window, very unlikely, nigh well impossible to turn it into a house cat. That would be like trying to bring a skunk or a raccoon in your house to live with you. So that leaves a question. What do we do with these in-between creatures that are neither wild animals or domestic pets? For decades, they were trapped and killed en masse, and they still are in many countries, such as Australia. They just try to exterminate their feral cats. But that kind of mass extermination has never, ever solved the problem, and studies have shown this. They've never been able to wipe out feral cat populations through mass extermination. If that kind of approach worked with animals, right, New York City would not have any rats, would it? But you can't get rid of all of them that way. And given the proclivity of procreation that they have, the population is going to boom again. And that's exactly what happens. But the one advantage we have in controlling cat populations, as opposed to rats or some other vermin-like animal, like a rat, the one advantage that we have with controlling cat populations is that we know where they come from. And they come from our own homes. Any feral cat has somewhere in its lineage a house cat that wasn't altered. That's where they come from. And that's step one in addressing the problem of feral cats, which is to say, to promote the neutering of all house cats. We neuter every cat that comes, that's here, that's up for adoption. We do not adopt out any unaltered cats for that reason. And many shelters, including ours, offer low-cost spay and neuter for that reason, so that people can get their animals fixed to control unwanted dog or cat population. An altered cat is also a healthier cat, both mentally and physically, and they won't roam. And if the cat does get out, she's not going to become the unwitting matron of a feral population. So, again, this is one of the most important points that can be made. To address the root of a feral cat problem, house cats. We have to begin with altering house cats. Okay. Step 2 deals with the feral cats that are already out there, and that's when we get to TNR, trap, neuter, return. The cat's trapped, neutered, vaccinated, and then returned to its territory. Remember, these are cats that cannot be domesticated into house cats. That cat's always going to be feral, but we try to make its very short life as comfortable as we can by setting it up with shelter, with someone who is willing to help manage the colony of cats. That is, making sure that the shelter is maintained and making sure that they have regular food so that they won't be inclined to wander and they will stay in that area. And the advantage of that is that it is free rodent control. The most important thing is that its feral legacy will not be passed on to kittens. When we TNR, we take in all kittens that are in that window of socialization, 5 to 12 weeks. And we have successfully been able to turn them into house cats. And I know that many of you here are fostering kittens that will eventually be adopted out and turned into house cats. Most of the cats that come into shelters are offspring of feral cats. By taking these kittens in, we can give them the life they were meant to have, a life with humans. But their parents, unfortunately, are going to live out their few years remaining ferals. And in this sense, TNR, I think, is always an act of last resort. You don't want to put cats out there, but some cats are just going to need to be out there because they can't be anywhere else. We can do everything we can for them, but they're going to be out there and living out their lives and just not prolonging the colony by having more kittens. Given that that's the only thing that we can do for them, for these in-between creatures, it's also the only thing that we can do for our own community to try to actually decrease the number of feral cats that are in this area. Does anybody know what the estimated number of feral cats is for Dutchess County? I find it shocking. Between 70 and 90,000. Yeah. That's estimated. Of course, nobody's ever been able to count them, but that's been estimated. Studies have shown that TNR works to decrease that population slowly and humanely. But as long as people don't get their cats neutered, we're going to be doing TNR forever. Finally, realizing the relationship between the community and the cats is essential to helping both the humans and the animals. The term that animal welfare organizations commonly use for feral cats is community cats, an acknowledgement of the relationship that they have with humans. Cats running amok are a threat to the community because they spread disease such as rabies, they have parasites which humans can contract. But even on a moral level, letting these cats roam about without help from us is not the way a humane society should be treating its pets. Community cats belong to all of us, and therefore it's our responsibility to try to take care of them. And we can do that in the best and most humane way possible. I want to turn the floor over now to Anne, who is going to talk about the practical side of TNR and how it works to help all of us. Thanks.
So we're going to give you a little bit about the TNR for today. Any of you ever do any trapping? Anybody catch anybody or catch any cats? So we've got a couple of trappers, and we have a couple of foster people as well, any fostering. So you know a little bit about what we do. So for the TNR, everyone's always like, what is this TNR? So it's trapping, we neuter them or alter them. So the females get spayed, the gentlemen are neutered, and then we return them back to their colony. So for us, that's the big part. We have to be able to return them back, or we can't really do things with them. Having cats here that are feral is it's a hard thing. And Dave is in the back, and he's one of our cat socializers, and he can tell you he's a magician when it comes to helping socialize cats, but that's a real hard call, a really hard sell to do that. So we have to be able to return those cats back. So you guys got that. You know, we trap, we neuter, release. This is just a little info for you. But a lot of times with the cats, like Lynn said, it's really important for the health of the cats. If they aren't taken care of, then they have a 2-year span outside. If you have a colony manager that's looking after them, checking their health, all of that, maybe a little longer. When we get them here and we get to alter them, the female cats especially, much better for them. If they don't have to have a litter, they run a less likelihood of getting cancers and mammary gland issues that come later on. So it's much better for them if we can get them in when they're young, get them altered, and then release them back. Or get them when they're little kittens and have them stay with us. Stray and feral. So everyone always thinks, oh, they're outside, they're a feral cat. Not necessarily. A lot of times we pick up cats here that have been a house cat that was stranded, left behind, owner passes away, got out and got lost, and you can tell the difference when you see them. A stray cat may look at you and not run away. Their coat will look a little disheveled. They're not used to being outside and having to brave the elements or live in some place that they're not used to and clean themselves up really well from all of that debris. So an outdoor cat, a stray cat, will look a little different than a feral. A lot of times you can see a stray cat during the day. Feral sometimes will stay away when people are around, and they come out when we're gone. So a stray cat may run the periphery and see people, but not come right to you. A lot of times you'll hear about people that are feeding and the cats are becoming more used to them. Sometimes a stray cat will be the one that maybe will brush you or get used to you if they are truly stray. So here's a poor little outdoor cat, you know, not looking like your regular house cat, but not exactly a feral cat. Most of the feral cats you see look really nice. Last night we picked up 2 female cats and 2 kittens, all beautiful. Tabbies, they look great. The kitten's little URI probably, a little nose and eye gook, but a lot of times with kittens that happens outside. And what Lynn was saying, a lot of times if a mama cat has a litter, only 25% will make it. So if she has 4 cats, 1 might make it. And that's, you know, it's for a kitten person, that's heartbreaking, but that's what happens when they're outside. So if you live in places where you see people dumping or anything, then let us know, because either I get them or Kate gets them. The stray cat is the one that we just talked about that doesn't look exactly great outside. They like to be near you, but not really. They're just different. The ferals, they're the ones that are gonna look a little bit like this. Now this is a feral that was trapped. It's been tipped. So the ear tip, usually on the left side, is done. The cat looks in good condition and will live outside. A lot of the ferals that we've seen they're just really beautiful. So the kittens and the cats outside, we go out, we try to get them. The ferals are brilliant. We had 9 cats we were supposed to get last night. We got 4 out of the 9. They see your trap, they come over. We had one night where they come over and they see that food in there and they figure out how to get their paw in there and they get it out. They wait till it's dark so you can't really see them. They know how to blend in. They're just brilliant animals that, as Lynn has told you, have evolved from all these other things. They are amazing. They're an awesome animal. So the ferals are out there doing their thing, and they're great. I love them. So this, another reason why the ferals, they're out there. If you're a birder, you understand that the ferals do such damage to the bird population and the native plants and all of that. So you want to keep bringing them in, get them neutered. Restaurants, hotels, places that have a lot of dumpsters, food. Down by the river here, you see a lot. Different colonies by different restaurants. Feral cats. Now, a lot of places we have, people call up and say, oh, there's feral cats on the property, but I can't take them back. So my job, well, why wouldn't you want to take them back? So of course, as you heard, rodent population. A lot of times when you have a feral cat colony that's existing, other cats aren't going to come around, or other animals, because that colony has got that space. So you have the rodent control, you keep out some of the other predators. Feral colonies do, I feel like, for me, both of my girls have gone to college and are not home anymore, so now they're my babies to take care of. So they help me feel good about doing things for the community, for cats, for myself. So it helps a lot of people that are in that same boat have a little mission to do. So feral cats are wonderful that way. I just love them. Valerie, do you do a lot with the ferals? Do you have any other things
Yes,
that you?
I have now. I mean, I have a lot of cats that are just, we return them, but they do get used to you coming, and I do have some that just, I see them once in a while up on a roof, you know?
Yep.
And then I have a couple that just, you know, they don't come to me, but they'll
They
keep
know
their
who
head
you are.
out when they see my car coming, or they'll come running across out of the woods, and they're waiting for their food, yeah.
The
Yeah,
gentleman that we trapped last night, he goes and calls, kitty, 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 he bangs his pots, they all
Yeah,
come. So
yeah.
the trick only worked a couple times for us though. When they saw us, they were not as excited.
Yeah.
So now you're thinking, hey, you catch these cats, now what? So we bring them here to the shelter. They go down below. The vet checks them all out, spays, neuters, ear tips. We let them recuperate, and then the next afternoon, we would bring them back, and they would go back to where we got them from. So normally that's how it goes in a shelter situation where we bring them in. It's kind of a quick turnover. If you were to take care of a colony on your own, then you could do a couple different things. But for us, that's the best way we can do it.
And they get a rabies shot while they're here too, right?
Yes.
I do believe so,
So
yeah.
that's another plus that, to help with the rabies.
So the TNR it's a great thing to do. And like Lynn said, there can be up to 90,000 in Dutchess County right now. And I was telling someone before how we were so excited because we hit over 20 last night. So now our total, since we started here, we have over 20 cats that we've gotten in and got spay neutered, but 90,000, like that's a lot. I don't know if we're gonna be able to do that this year, but we'll do what we can, we'll give it our best shot. So I have a little, well, we don't have a TNR program. So Lynn was mentioning to you before about the population. So if you think about it, one mama cat can have, let's call it 3 litters in a season. So if each time she has a couple, and if there's, one lives and it happens to be a female cat, she's gonna have a couple more. So if every cat is, I think it's 2.8, they say, per season. So after a couple of years, you're talking about over 2 million cats. So that's a lot. And so we're at we're at 90, so we're between like 6 and 7 years worth of cats here. That's an awful lot. So we really need to work together, find the colonies, have someone to manage them, and then work with us or another organization that's doing a trap neuter thing. We do have Tara once a month that comes if you were to catch ferals on your own and bring them in, and we have the low-cost clinic down below. So that's the big stuff with TNR. Do you have any TNR thoughts or questions that you want to throw out? Yes, Jen?
I was just wondering about the colonies and the people who manage them. Is there a standard or some kind of support that we can give people who do manage colonies in terms of what's the best practice, and what about a colony that doesn't really have a regular manager?
The colonies that have a manager that contact us, we try to support them the best way we can. Lynn and I have talked about different ways we can help them with food, shelters for the winter, things like that. The unmanaged ones are the ones that are the problem colonies because they're not getting altered and more at risk for, just dying of hunger, disease, etc. So, like if we all, I mean, becoming a colony manager is a big job, because you're out there feeding, you know, normally twice a day, but maybe they probably get by on once. But it's, that's the hard part, is finding the colony managers.
And
It's a
if
big
there's a
job.
colony that doesn't have a manager,
Then it could just be crazy.
yeah, do we do any trapping in a situation like that, or?
If someone calls and lets us know that there's a colony like that, then we go ahead. Like the one we did out in Pleasant Valley, they have a manager, but it was getting out of hand because people kept dumping. Any other
That's the
thoughts?
problem I have, you know, because it's a front of town apartment, but it's an apartment area.
Mhm.
And you just can't keep up, there's always somebody moving out, leaving a cat behind, and I've even had people that were hoarders, and I had one lady, when I first started feeding over there, had 17 unfixed cats in a one-bedroom rundown apartment. There was babies in the closet, babies in the bathtub.
That's a situation where we hope that somebody would call us.
Yeah, well, at the time, a bunch of organizations got involved and
Yeah.
took them, and
That's a lot.
Yeah, because the organizations will partner with us, and so it's good that whoever reported that in.
Yeah.
Not organizations. 'Cause
that's how I ended up feeding back there, because somebody called a woman that I knew who ran the Lost Pets page, and we went back to look, and there were so many kittens and cats around, and we started feeding them, and then little by little, you get to know the people that are around, and somebody said to me, this lady's dumping them out in the middle of the winter. And little by little, I mean, she talked right to me, she was like, oh yeah, I've got 17 of them in there. They were climbing through the ceilings and urinating on the apartment next door. I mean, it was a disaster.
Right.
And it's way under control from there, but, because that was 5 or 6 years ago, but there's still more that
Right.
we just don't.
Yeah, well, the two things that anybody can do to help is to call us if there's a situation that's out of control like that. We do have resources to help people if they have too many animals that they can't care for in their apartment. It doesn't need to be cats, it can be any kind of animal. Also, if you see somebody moving out of an apartment complex that you live in and they dump the cat, call us right away. We will take the cat in if it's a domestic cat that somebody has just dumped outside.
Now, do they
We will
get in
take the cat.
trouble for that?
Hmm?
Can they get in trouble for that? I mean, where are the laws to prevent that?
There are statutes against animal abandonment, but it's very rare to catch somebody if they move out of an apartment and they just throw a cat
That is
outside.
probably just like a slap on the wrist anyway. Not much of a punishment.
It depends. It depends on the municipality and on where it happens. It depends.
I think the reality of really getting anybody legally.
Yeah, that's
It's hard enough with the dogs, with the cats, it's.
Yeah, yeah.
Right, yeah, that's the problem is actually, proving that it was their cat and that, that the animal was really abandoned. There are actually protections against, accusing somebody of that or trying to charge somebody without sufficient evidence, so, and I'm more interested in getting the animal to safety.
Is there a fee to surrender a cat? Like if somebody's gonna move, there's no, okay, so that, there's
We
no,
do not have any surrender fees.
okay, so there's no barrier in that respect.
No.
So while we're on the topic of laws, I thought I'd just butt in. My name is Kate, I'm the animal control officer here. I'm the one, I get a lot of calls from the community. I work with my community to try and manage, obviously, dog control, and I also help with the cats as well. In New York, there are no laws for domestic cats, unfortunately. The only laws that we have are cruelty, neglect, torture, that kind of thing. But there are no laws that state, don't let your cat run outside, spay and neuter your cat before it is allowed outdoors, that kind of thing. So that's our biggest problem, because I get a lot of calls every day, people saying, I have 5 cats in my yard, they're killing all the birds, they're defecating everywhere, do something about it. I'm like, I can't do anything. There's nothing I can do, because there are no laws saying you can't let your cats outside. Just like a leash law for dogs, there's no leash law for cats. Licensing as well, no one has to license their cats in the state of New York. Some places in New Jersey, you actually have to license your cat with the town just like you would your dog. So unfortunately, those laws are not here yet. Hopefully that'll all change in the future, because that would really help us out a lot with trying to control the population. Because I go out every day, I see the results of feral cats every day. Just yesterday, I responded to a call of it was a feral cat that had severe injuries, the worst injuries I've ever seen on a cat before. He had a huge gash in his neck. You know, I'm gonna spare you the details, but it was terrible, even for me who sees terrible things every day. We finally caught the cat. He gave one last hiss and growl. I grabbed him, and he passed away right then and there in my arms. And he smelled like death. He'd been suffering for weeks. His injuries were old, gaping open, flies, all that kind of thing. So those are the kind of things that we can prevent with TNR. We can minimize that kind of thing happening to cats out there. You know, a lot of people also, they get so frustrated because we can't do anything about these cats, so they end up threatening to shoot them and stuff like that. So controlling the population is really gonna help us in the long run. It's not gonna do anything for a few years, but hopefully if we keep this up, it can really help and make a difference in the future. Yeah. I wanted to touch on a few laws when you're going onto people's property and stuff like that, because some people get a little bit funny about it. So ownership of an animal means that you're taking care of that animal, whether it's in your house or out your house. So feral cats are not wildlife, but if you're feeding a feral cat, you have taken ownership of that cat, and you are kind of responsible for what happens to it. So a lot of old ladies, they go out there and they're like, oh, I have a little cat outside my door, I'm gonna feed it, and then 2 weeks later they call me and they say, I have 4 cats, I can't keep up, I don't have money for food. You know, so if you're starting to feed a cat, these are kind of things that you can tell the public. If you're feeding that cat, you're bringing it on yourself, you're taking on that responsibility, and hopefully communicating with the public, they can kind of be educated on it. Because most of my job is basically educating the public, because there's a lot of things that people don't know when it comes to that kind of thing. Let's see. Anything else you want to touch on law-wise?
I didn't know that about if you feed it, it's yours.
Yeah.
Well, and to your point, Kate, if you're feeding a feral cat without bothering to get it neutered or vaccinated, then that to me might be as kindly as you feel not the best thing to be doing for that animal. If you feed it and provide it shelter and get it neutered and vaccinated, then congratulations, you're a colony manager. We want you. That's the way to do it. And you can manage a colony. We can help you with those animals if you're willing to trap them, get them vaccinated, and get them neutered. We can provide resources to help with colony management.
So I've got a quick question. It seems like the end game is no more ferals. If it works and everybody gets neutered and stops having babies, are there statistics or case studies of other municipalities who can look at their situation and say, yeah, it worked and we don't have any more ferals? Or
you can definitely work. Studies have shown that populations have been decreased. I don't know though that you can say that there's no ferals anywhere unless you can.
We're ever gonna have no ferals.
Yeah, unless you can absolutely guarantee that every single person in your municipality, in your community who has a cat has had it altered.
right.
So.
Right, and the ones that I've read, it's the city government or the town government kind of is the umbrella. So for us, we would be a piece of that, but it would have to be something that your municipality or your county was really behind and had a lot of help with it.
Yeah. So I just kind of wanted to say why TNR is so important. It's because I get calls every single day from the community who needs this. I get calls from people who nobody can help them. And they've tried for years and years, and they have all these cats coming to their house, and we finally said, oh, I'm gonna transfer you to Ann. We have a TNR team that's building, and we can get you on the list and help you out. And they're like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. No one's been helping me. I've been so desperate. So we're helping the community and, you know, building a relationship with the community through this as well, and taking away the nuisance of feral cats and helping them at the same time.
And also just so you know, we're not the only people in the county doing this. There are several wonderful TNR organizations throughout the county with some of whom we partner with that can help with this. So if people see cats in their yard, and they can call us, and we can also either help them ourselves or refer them to one of the many fine organizations that are helping with TNR. Because it really is a community-wide effort. We can't do it. Dutchess County SPCA can't do it for that many cats across the entire county. So we really depend on community members and community TNR organizations to help us.
Any other thoughts, questions?
Sometimes people call in professional exterminators to rid their property of problem cats. What do the exterminators do with those cats?
Unknown and unsaid. Unknown and unsaid.
Yeah, we don't really know, unfortunately. If it comes to the point where people go in and just killing cats, that's not okay with us. That's, you know.
That's against the law.
That is against the law, yes, with cats.
Professional exterminators are called that for a reason, but we do not know what they do with any animals that they trap.
Because if they were caught, then that would be a problem.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think of other things, because you're going onto people's property, and of course we have permission, but sometimes there could be neighbors or people coming at you and say, what are you doing? Why are you trapping cats? My cat's an outdoor cat. Don't catch my cat. And my answer to that is always, keep your cat inside, microchip your cat, register your cat somehow, you know, put a little collar on it so that when we catch those kind of cats, we know, oh, you have a home already. So if you do encounter any issues with the public, it's a really great opportunity to educate them about why you're doing what you're doing and how it's gonna affect them positively and not negatively. We're there to help them, not come in and trap cats, because people think we're gonna come in and kill cats sometimes, you know, and that's just a lack of education of people. So it's a great opportunity if you guys are out there, you get to speak to the public, it's a really good chance to tell them all about it.
Here's a quick question. Do we check for microchips when we catch the cats before we bring them out of their area? You know, if we go to an apartment complex that's overrun with, you know, feral cats or community cat colonies, right? I think a lot of the people there, I've known people that would spring the traps, people that would, you know, chase the animals and do stuff like that, because they think if their cat gets caught, it's gonna end up here, and they're afraid of what happens when it gets here.
Yep. Which is where we tell them microchip. We always scan every animal that comes into this facility, we scan them. That's the first thing we do. Every stray cat, every feral cat, stray dog.
We bring them here though to do that. If they're
Yeah.
trapped, we bring them here. The only time that we ever release a cat that's trapped that we don't bring here is if it's already ear tipped, because then we know that it's already been vaccinated and neutered.
A collar.
I'm sorry?
And if they have a collar?
Well, no, if they have a collar, then there'd be a stray cat. We would bring them here and see if we can locate the owner.
Yeah, see if it has a little name or something,
Yeah.
phone number.
When you're trapping, do you stay with the trap? Like, is the trap ever unattended?
No.
Okay.
When we go, we always stay with our traps.
Okay, because that's what I was told. You know, when I first started, I put a trap, go to the grocery store, come back, and then somebody said, don't ever do that. So
No.
I don't anymore, but I was just curious what, you know,
No.
even for, I always felt like it was just a short, and they were in an area where I knew there wasn't much.
What we found is as soon as,
activity.
if we set out our traps, as soon as one trips, then the other cats scatter.
Yeah.
And it's like a 20-30 minute reset before they or I'll calm again, and
Yeah.
then maybe we can catch somebody else. So we always stay with our traps.
Yeah.
And as soon as it springs, we take it away.
Yeah.
And that way, that cat can calm down, because
Right,
getting trapped is traumatic for them.
right.
Yeah, and I mean, you could, you know, leave the trap for a few minutes or for 20 minutes or something like that, but, you know, to a cat, especially a feral cat, getting put into a trap, or, you know, getting into a trap, not being able to escape, to the cat feels like it's just been tied to railroad tracks and the train isn't ready to come, because all it knows is that it's out, it's exposed to predators, and it can't hide. So it's gonna freak.
Yeah.
And could even conceivably die of stress, or you know, wound, you know, or damage itself trying to get out of the trap.
Even when you're right there, it's hard.
Yeah.
I have a few that just bang around and
Right.
till the nose.
We try to cover them right away.
Yeah.
The best thing to do is put a cover on
Cover
straight
on
away.
it.
Yeah.
I usually try to chop with the cover on.
We've done it both ways, just some places, the cat still goes a little crazy, other,
Yeah.
we experiment with like every place, see what.
Yeah, everything is different. Sometimes you can trap a mom cat by trapping the kittens first, leaving them there in the trap, and then setting another one right next to it. Mom will walk right in to get to her kittens and get trapped herself. So it's a really kind of on your toes. You got to think about what kind of cat are we working with here. Some cats that have already been trapped and they somehow got sprung out, or you open the trap and the trap was faulty or something like that. You know, they get smart and they say, well, I'm not going in that again. So then you have to come up with ways, you know, covering, using smellier kind of fish,
Right.
that kind of thing.
And we've
So-
had the reverse happen. One place we went 3 or 4 times and we caught the same ear-tip cats every single time. And we said we had to change up our food because they must like it too much. So
it's kind of fun. It keeps
I
you
think
on
they
your
just
toes.
wanna mess with us.
They do.
Get a free meal.
Well, they get a free meal because they know they're getting out.
The ear-tipped cats are automatically released, they're not ever brought back in. I mean, we don't give them like a booster on their
No,
vaccination or anything.
we haven't been, because there's so many, and the places that we're going, we always not target, but we see the ones that we're like, okay, we need to get that one. So if we catch a tipped one, then we send them out,
And
just so we can get the other guys.
yeah, they don't get revaccinated, because remember that the average lifespan is about 2 years, which is about how long the rabies
Yeah.
vaccination would last.
Well, now, feel free to mingle, we have cookies and things, and I really don't wanna bring it all home, so you guys need to eat a little bit, and feel free to ask us all the questions. Dave is here, he's an awesome socializer. Diane and Bonnie have been helping me trap. Lynn and Kate are here, so if you have questions or just wanna see some things, we're not open to the public right now, today's Tuesday, so Wednesday through Sunday, we are. So if you have any animal questions, feel free.